All right, in our math class, we are going to move on now to the next operation, which would be multiplication. And our focus today, we're going to kind of take steps into multiplication. We're not going to go quite as fast into it. We're adding and subtracting. We kind of just went straight into it. Today, we're going to start with multiplication, where I have a whole number and a decimal. And so I'm going to go through some practice problems and try to refresh your memory on how to go through multiplication. And what's really nice with multiplication is order doesn't matter. So if I do 4 times 0.83, it's the same as doing 0.83 times 4. If you want to question me on that, feel free to do 2 times 3 and get 6. If I do 3 times 2, I still get 6. My answer doesn't change if I change the order. So, with that said, when we multiply, I think trying to keep track of this decimal and looking at all this information, I get overwhelmed. And so instead, I'm going to forget about the decimal, and this 0 up front isn't going to change my value. 0.83 or 0.83, they're both the same value. So I'm going to do 83 times 4. I know that that's not our original problem. We have 0.83. We're going to get our decimal re-put into the problem after we solve it. So when we do multiplication, we start with our bottom number, and it's nice to have the smaller or the shorter value on the bottom. So here I have 4, and I'm going to multiply above. 4 times 3 is 12. I need to keep my digits in line here, so the 2 goes in the 1's digit, and then the 1 of the 12 will go up above. 4 times 8 is 32, and I have to add that 1 that I carried up there, so 33. As you're solving these problems, sorry, this is a little side note, feel free to get out the multiplication table at the back of your agenda or pull up a multiplication table on the internet, because you are welcome to use that when it comes to any of the homework or the test, is to have a multiplication table available to you. All right. My original problem was 4 times 0.83, and 0.8, that's pretty close to 1. So my answer of 332 makes no sense. 4 times 1 is only 4. So this value, we need to put a decimal in that would be close to 4. So if I put it here, I'm at 33.2. If I put it here, I'm at 3.32. That's close to 4. Instead of always having to go through that, another way to know where the decimal goes is to look at your original problem. There are 1, 2 decimal places, so I need to work my way back in 1, 2 places. So an answer of 3.32 for this one. All right, I'm going to do one more. I hope you just watch this one, and then the next one you could try by pausing. So if I do this one, remember order doesn't matter, but I'm going to put that 0.95 on top. Realize I dropped the 0. We could have it, but I don't need it. And I actually did this wrong. I'm not going to put 0.95. I'm going to put 95. And I'm going to put 4 below it, and we're going to multiply. So 5 times 4 is 20, the 1's digit, and the 2 goes up. 4 times 9 is 36, 37, 38 by adding what was up there. Oops, 38. And so I have 380. Again, that doesn't make sense for this problem because I have a number less than 1 times 4. I shouldn't have an answer in the 300s. And so there are 1, 2 decimal places in the original problem. So I have to work my way back in 1, 2 places. So 3.80. All right, I'm going to get you set up on this last one. I am going to switch my order because I want to have 142 on top. I know it's not 142. We'll get this decimal put back into our answer at the end, but we're going to multiply by 3. It's set up. I'm going to ask that you push pause. You try and solve it. Hit play, and you'll see me solving it out, and you can see if you got the same answer. So pause your computer. All right, here's your answer coming at you. So 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 4 is 12. Carry the 1 up. 3 times 1 is 3, plus the 1 that was there is 4. 426 is way too big of an answer for 3 times 14, if I think of it that way. So there was only one decimal place. That means I need to come back in one place. Notice I'm putting a box around my answer, and I am done. All right, hopefully you got at least the 426. Maybe just finding out how to get that decimal back in was what you needed to see. I only have one more page for you here. This is in your textbook. So if you go to page 194, A, B, and C should be inside there. This is another one of those situations where I would prefer that you are pausing, trying to solve them, and then coming back to see my solutions. Feel free to even pause, solve one, hit play, watch me solve A, pause before I get to B, pause before I get to C, so that you can get some instruction along the way. So pause, give them a try, and then check your answers. So I did 5 times 5 is 25, carry the 2. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 more is 12. There are 1, 2 decimal places. 1, 2, back into the number. 1.25. And I have 447 times 8. I am changing my order because this is a longer number, and I want that on top, just for organization. 8 times 7. Ooh, that's that tricky one. 56. 8. And again, use a multiplication table. I don't need you to be struggling just trying to get this part right. Please use your multiplication table. 8 times 4 is 32. Plus 5 more is 37. 8 times 4 is 32. And I have 3 more that I'm adding on to there. So 32, 3 more is 35. And then I had 1, 2, 1, 2. So 35.76. A point I should have made probably earlier is I'm counting my decimal places, and I always work my way from right to left, putting it back into the number. That's a very, very important step. Start at the end of your number and work your way into it. So last one here. 3 times 9 is 27. 6 times 9 is 54. Plus 2 more is 56. 9 times 2 is 18. 18 plus 5 gets me to 23. There were 2 decimal places in my original problem, so I'm going to work my way back in 2 places. Hopefully this helped with the decimal operations. I think sometimes the biggest review for students is just how to multiply. Once you can get through those, finding that decimal place becomes pretty quick. So you're going to have homework tonight that I will assign some numbers where you're just doing a whole number times a decimal, and get some practice in with these before we move on to some other kind of problems. So good luck. Email me with questions.